remember also, currently, you're using the 2006 International Residential Code, I believe. You didn't adopt the 2009 code. Going from the 2006 to the 2009 code is one step increase in standards. Going to the 2012 represents a second step increase in standards. Going from the 6 to the 12 is a big step. It's a big step. Phasing change in, I think, can be a very, very successful way to dramatically increase the efficiency of dwellings in the community, maintaining a reasonable cost associated with those dwellings, getting back on a triannual code adoption process helps the community make these efficiency changes in reasonable steps instead of in great big leaps. I don't think that people always take that into consideration when they look at code adoption. And I think that the implementation of the code is, frankly, as important as the substance of the code.
So in terms of the R13 versus R19, what is the difference in, I guess, break-even, number of years to break even, or payback, or?
I don't know. I don't know.
It depends, I would say, what else is involved in the house.
Well, I mean, as far as energy efficiency, you've got a 50% increase in the cavity size and the insulation, so, I mean, it seems like it ought to be a pretty easy calculation.
Well, but remember, in order to go to the thicker wall,
You got to have other things.
it's not just that, and I really can't quantify what the payback time is. I don't know.
But I mean, what was the argument that the builders gave for why they wanted to dumb down the R19 to R13?
Well,
I'm assuming that's really, this is driven by the Home Builders Association.
You know, it's interesting. The Home Builders Association and the building officials both, I think, took a critical approach to the code's changes. I've heard over the last 3 years, I've heard wildly divergent opinions in terms of cost. I've heard everything from it will add $1,500 onto the cost of a 3,000 square foot house to it will add $50,000 to the cost of a 3,000 square foot house. Where's the truth? I think it's somewhere in between. In a prescriptive environment, it's easier to quantify the cost in return for improvements to the house. High U rating or extremely efficient glass, I think, is one of the least effective methods. I think that going through and insulating knee walls, which traditionally have not been insulated, those are the less than full height walls that are typically part of a basement foundation or part of a gable end roof assembly. I think that's an extremely effective, low-cost way to dramatically realize quite a bit of energy savings. Creating a tighter building envelope, building a home that has fewer air changes, I think is an extremely effective way to reduce the conditioned air that flows out and the unconditioned air that flows in. I think that's a very cost-effective way to create a more efficient home. Then you also don't want to create a house that has too little air migration. You then have a house that has problems with basically sick building syndrome. I wish I could give you
I just...
quantifiable
If we
examples.
knew those numbers precisely, then it would be an easy decision.
There is, the U.S. Department of Energy has a website that has their cost factoring. It is not consistent with the home builders' evaluation of cost. Which one is accurate? I don't know. I don't know.
Are there any other, large changes that were made? Because that's a fairly significant one that, on things that matter,
I think one of the most significant elements is the issue associated with the HERS rating. I think that's an important community choice that you have in front of you. It's a methodology that's being adopted by a number of jurisdictions in Johnson County. It makes sense to me. It doesn't eliminate the prescriptive method for achieving an energy-efficient dwelling. It provides an alternative that allows for some creativity in the development construction process. I like the HERS process because it's quantifiable, it's nationally recognized, it's a rating process that's used all over the United States and has been for years, and it gives the consumer specifics to judge how efficient their overall home is. And I think also the way that it's proposed that you deal with houses that in the beginning of the implementation phase of the 2012 code don't meet the standard. I think that's significant also. I think it's a reasonable approach to what could be an untenable situation. The problem with the performance-based process is you don't get the rating until the house is done. And the barn door's been left open at that point.
Is there any rating that somebody would receive where you'd say, we can't issue an exception for this? So bad that...
I've seen brand new houses built in the city of Lenexa and that had no insulation in the attic at all. Second year the people were in the house, they noticed they had these enormous power bills. And they call the building department out and say, something's wrong here, come take a look. And the building inspector dutifully crawls up in the attic and somebody forgot to put the insulation in the attic. There's a process for remediating that situation. You get in touch with the builder and say, hey, where's our attic insulation? The builder sends a crew out and they repair it. I think you probably could have a situation like that occur, but I think frankly, I don't know where you make the tipping point. I would say a house that sat at 115 points is not a house that I'd want to purchase in today's marketplace. But a house that's at a 100-point rating, frankly, is a much more energy efficient home than the one that I live in up in Wyandotte County. And I live in a relatively modern home. I'm not sure where you put the tipping point. I think that by having a staff in your building inspection department who is out there during the construction of the building, verifying at specific points, the foundation stage, or the pre-concrete pour stage, foundation stage, the framing stage, the sheetrock stage, that the standard components of energy efficient construction that are found on the plans or that are found in the code if they're following the prescriptive method is an assurance you're not going to have a house that's so out of kilter that it would be past the tipping point. I really don't think so. If the inspector sees the house being constructed with no attic insulation or conducts his final inspection and observes there's no attic insulation, he's not going to give that house a final inspection approval. He's going to say, the plans show this is supposed to have R39 in the attic. Where is it?